Oh ye, the courtroom of 107, fourth period, advanced debate is now in session. The Honorable Judge, I am blind, presiding. The case being tried today is the State of Pennsylvania versus Morgan McGrath. All please attend with respect. You may be seated.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, before we get started today, I just want to remind you of your responsibilities. Your responsibility over the next 2 days is to listen attentively, and at the end of those 2 days you will be charged with making a decision about what you've heard over these 2 days of testimony and evidence. I would like to remind you that discussion of this case outside of the courtroom is strictly prohibited, and you would be held in contempt of court if you were discussing this beyond the walls of this courtroom. I would also like to remind you that you're going to make your decision based on what you hear from these 2 legal counsels over these next 2 days and their witnesses. And remember that you are charged as a jury to make a reasonable and unbiased decision based on what you hear in evidence. So please leave all previous attitudes and biases at the door and listen with an equal ear. The way the case will go today, we are hearing a case, the State of Pennsylvania versus Morgan McGrath. This is a criminal case. Mr. McGrath is charged with arson. Both sides will explain the charge to you, and at the end, before you go to make your decision, that charge will also be clarified for you, so you will know exactly the law that applies in this case. I would ask you to please, again, pay as close attention as you can to both sides. Today we will hear the opening statements, and the prosecution will present their witnesses. Tomorrow we will hear the defense witnesses and the closing statements, and then you will deliberate. So without any further delay, let's get started with the opening statements. Let me first ask, is the defense ready? Is the prosecution ready? Okay. Then the prosecution would start by having their counsel give an opening statement.
You don't clap in the courtroom.
Good morning, the Honorable I am blind and fellow and jury members. Today, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is being counseled by myself, my co-counsel Kowtow Zhu, and George Zhu. The defendants for Mr. McGrath are Ms. Kelly Cross, Mr. Robert Liu, Mr. Alan Tang, and Mr. Sean On. The witnesses for the defense are Mr. McGrath and his classmate Jesse Drawer, and the Honorable Learned H. McGrath. The witnesses for the prosecution are Chief Chris Martelloni and McGrath's classmate Jesse Dewar. On March 14th, Morgan McGrath was the last out of Butterworth Hall at 7:35 p.m. A good kid from a good neighborhood, a straight-A student angry because he didn't get what he wanted. This straight-A student received a B- in a writing class by Professor Bode. This professor is married to a Professor Vetter who happens to work in Butterworth Hall. Approximately 10 minutes after this 7:35 exit, Butterworth Hall, a fire started, and that would engulf the entire building and leave only a shell behind. These are the undisputed facts of the case. This justice system is based on such facts, such evidence and logic. The 2 events connected by a single motive, supported by evidence, is all that there is to this case. You'll hear this confirmed by both Fire Chief of Temple County, Chris Martelloni, and Morgan's fellow classmate, Jesse Dewar. Now, the defense will try and cast doubts on these facts, protesting that a boy of such character could never commit such a crime, or quibbling over a timesheet. Such frail claims cannot and will not stand against the fact that Morgan McGrath has both the motives and the means to burn down Butterworth Hall. Thank you.
Is the defense ready for their opening statement?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Sean On, and our team, consisting of Kelly Cross, Alan Tang, Robert Liu, and I, will have the privilege of representing Morgan McGrath in today's case. As you've been told by the prosecution, As the prosecution has told you what they hope to prove in this case, we are here to represent Morgan's side of the story. As you've been told, on the night of March 14, 2001, the Fraser Butterworth Natural Sciences building in James State University was destroyed by a fire. In the events leading to the fire, our client, along with 2 other students, Tracy Wines and Jesse DeWar, were working in a laboratory project in Lab 2A. After the students completed their project and left the building, an individual went into the lab, set a hot plate next to the wall, and caused the fire. The prosecution will try to convict our client of being this individual because, as they claim, of his bitterness towards his creative writing teacher after receiving a B- in the class. We will prove that Morgan's uneasiness over his creative writing grade does not by any means make him a suspect for arson in a chemistry building. The prosecution will try to mislead you into thinking that this served as Morgan's motive for the crime due to such a far-fetched connection, one that our client cannot be accountable for knowing. However, the defense will show you that Morgan did not turn mad, as the prosecution will try to tell you. On the contrary, by revealing Morgan's background and various other aspects of the case, we will prove that such reckless actions are impossible of our client. The prosecution will call on 2 witnesses, the first being Chris Martelloni, a fire chief, who will explain how the fire started. Then the prosecution will try to confirm the criminal was Morgan McGrath because of a blurry camera image and failed scanner logs. We will show you that both pieces of evidence are inaccurate and unreliable. Next, the prosecution will call on a fellow classmate, Jesse DeWar. Jesse will try to create a story where he waited outside the building for Morgan, who did not go to the bathroom, as he claimed, but instead went to Lab 2A. Keep in mind that he was the only person who claimed to have seen this. In response to this, the defense will expose that Mr. DeWar possesses a deep jealousy and envy for Morgan's excellence and reputation, that these feelings have possibly led him into committing the crime and in turn framing our client. On the other hand, we, the defense, will try to show you that who Morgan McGrath really was, an honest, hard-working student. We will prove that his moral upbringing by his father, a federal appeals judge, and his mother, a Nobel Prize winner, would make it impossible for him to commit such a crime. In conclusion, the defense urges you to keep an open mind and listen to all the evidence. We believe that our client, Morgan McGrath, a top-notch student at James State University, is not guilty. In fact, Morgan is the victim in this case. He was just an innocent bystander who had the misfortune of being perceived as a threat by Mr. DeWar. And through the following trial, we will steer you to see the case as we do. The defense urges you to avoid falling under the iron curtains of jealousy and envy. Make a decision for justice and return the verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Is the Commonwealth ready to present their first witness?
We are.
Would you please call your first witness?
We call our first witness, head of the fire chief of the fire department of Temple County, Chris Martin.
Raise the hand, right hand, left hand on the Bible. I don't know if that's what you just did. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth or something. It doesn't say so, help you God. Really? You do? Alright, good stuff.
I'll get better next time. I didn't read over what I was supposed to say.
Now, Chris, you've been the chief of the fire department for the last 17 years. What qualifications do you have for being an expert witness today?
Well, I graduated from York University with a Bachelor in Forensic Science. I formerly worked with the FBI for a long time, but later left in order to become a fire chief. I actually received my MBA at James State University, and I specialized in tracking the placement of the source of a fire and the track that it follows.
Right. And using that specialized skill during your investigation, where did the fire start?
We placed the fire starting in Lab 2A.
Right. Occurring from starting from a
Hot plate that was placed against the wall.
and the hot plate will looks like this. Pass it around. Now, you also during the investigation, when do you place the fire starting?
We started around 7:45.
Now, during your investigation, have you also confirmed that you know the last 3 people to enter and exit the building?
Objection.
Leading.
Leading.
Sustained.
During your investigation, do you know, how's that leading?
Council listed as a number of.
Are you aware of any of the individuals inside the building shortly before the start of the fire?
Yes, the 3 individuals before the start of the fire were Jesse Dewar, Lindsay, and Morgan McGrath.
Now, why did your investigation focus on Morgan McGrath?
Well, both of the other suspects were very sure that they put their hot plates away, as is procedure. And Morgan claimed that he did as well. However, he had the means and the motive to commit the crime.
Specified motives?
Well, we have an email that he sent to a Professor Bode, who, as you know, is married to Professor Vetter, who works in the Butterworth Labs. And it was what it said particularly was that you would pay for giving me a B.
That's
And we looked at that as a threat.
Yes. Now, you said that you listed 2 other people. Specifically, why was Jesse not also as investigated as Morgan?
Well, as I said earlier, he was very sure that he put his hot plate away, as his procedure.
Yes. Now that you have conducted this investigation, what did you do in regards to the information concerning them?
All of the evidence we found, we saw that Morgan McGrath was the lead suspect in this case, and we had the Temple County go and arrest him for arson.
Yes. Now, one last thing, it's more of a curiosity. On this timesheet, it shows that Professor T. Fay entered the building and seemed to have exited at the same time. What do you make of this?
Well, how the system works is it counts the minutes, it does not count the seconds. So if he went in during the same minute at, let's say, I don't recall the time, was it 7:24?
No,
What was it?
it was 6:30.
6:30, he could have went in at 6:30 and 2 seconds and left at 6:30 and 54 seconds, and it would both be counted by the system as 6:30.
Thank you. That'll be all.
Would the defense care to cross-examine the witness?
DNA tie. Yeah, do not be shy to show that tie off. My favorite kind of bird is grass. I like his tie.
How are you this morning?
Good, thank you. Right. All right, Mr. Martaglione, you have worked in the FBI, correct?
Yes.
Then, you must be familiar with crimes. You have studied them, investigated them, correct? All right. Then, let me tap into your expertise. If you were to commit a crime, you would want to enter and leave as quickly as possible to avoid getting caught, correct?
Objection, unfair extrapolation.
Objection overruled.
Overruled.
Yes.
He's asking for something that...
He's asking for an expert opinion. You've certified him as an expert, and you certified him as investigating criminal situations. I believe he can give an expert opinion about a crime, situation, or scene. Thank you. Continue.
I don't believe I am qualified to state the mindset of a criminal.
But you've investigated crimes, correct?
Yes.
And you would have to tap into the mindset of a criminal in order to...
No, I simply have to use evidence to solve it.
Okay, then. So then, if you were to commit a crime, you yourself, I'm not questioning your character, I'm just saying if, you would want to leave as quickly as possible to avoid being caught, correct?
In theory.
Theory, yes. All right. Then, may I present the witness with evidence? All right. Let the record show that this is Exhibit I for identification. Can you please read this line?
7:24 p.m.
And,
Exiting Jesse Dewar.
no, this
No,
next line.
exiting Morgan McGrath.
And then,
Enter
So at 7:24, correct?
Yes.
All right then, and in your witness statement, you said that that a figure was seen by the security camera at 7:29,
That's correct.
correct? All right then. 5 minutes. Evidence again? So, Exhibit D. This is left away, correct?
Correct.
This is the door which Morgan entered, correct?
Correct.
Right around the corner, correct?
Correct.
So, is it not unfair to say that 5 minutes is a little too much for a few yards?
Well, there were also more people inside of the building at that time.
Well then,
So I don't believe he would commit a crime if there was somebody sitting there watching.
what? Jesse was behind the door, correct?
Jesse left at 7:33. That allowed him 2 minutes to commit the crime before he left at 7:35,
Okay.
which
Well,
is a lot less time, which would fit your ideal.
alright then. Now, after you discovered the existence of this email from Mr. McGrath to the professor, you shifted all attention in the investigation to Mr. McGrath. Is that correct?
Yes.
But there were 2 other students in the building at this time, correct?
Correct.
30.
So, why did you not? Is there So there could be possible motives and means of the other 2 that you did not investigate, right?
Correct.
All right. So there is a possibility that the other 2 students, Miss Wyan and Mr. Dewar, could have committed the crime.
5.
Well, there's obviously a possibility, but there is more means. And
It's a yes or no question.
Stop.
No further questions.
Well, Chief, would you care to redirect?
Yes. Just one question. Why, again, did you focus the investigation on Morgan McGrath?
Because he threatened who runs the lab's wife.
That is all.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Have a nice day.
You too.
Does the Commonwealth have any other witnesses they'd like to call?
Yes, we would like to call to stand Jesse Dewar.
Put your hand on the Bible. The right hand. Right hand.
Right hand.
Right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, sit.
Now, on the night of March 14, 2001, where were you?
I was in Butterworth Natural Science Building, working in Lab 2A, working on science.
That's introduction. I can't make you find that. Did you use any equipment in doing this project?
Yes, we used the usual equipment. We used a couple microscopes, some beakers, a hot plate, and a few acidic chemicals and compounds.
Now, who else was there with you during this project?
Only 2 other students, Tracy Wayans and Morgan McGrath.
No. You and Morgan McGrath, would you say that you were good friends with Morgan McGrath?
No, not really. We haven't talked to each other in detail before that night. We had some maybe passing by comments, but other than that, no real contact.
Now, at 6 o'clock, what happened?
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, the faculty of the building requires all students to exit the building, and to exit the building if they are already in and rescan in, because technically it's after hours. So after we rescan in, the 3 of us left at 6 o'clock and rescanned in. However, Tracy and Morgan re-entered immediately, but I stayed out for about like 5 minutes to have a smoke.
Nice. Now, later that night after you were scanned in, you also had a conversation with Morgan McGrath. Would you like to tell us about it?
It wasn't much of a conversation. I guess, actually, yes, it was. She was telling us about this man who wants to wrestle in her neighborhood. However, it didn't really seem real to me, and I had made some passing by comment about how I didn't exactly believe in it. However, once I said that, she seemed to have seemed to become very agitated and didn't exactly,
Who is,
he, Morgan, didn't exactly to take well my disbelief and his comment, and he insulted me and called me an idiot, which I thought it didn't exactly hurt my feelings as much as I was exactly shocked by what he said.
no, why were you shocked?
Why was I, well, up until then, Morgan had seemed like a nice man. He seemed to be easygoing, however, this moment just happened to click instantly, and he just seemed very, very agitated, not like himself.
I see. Now, before you left, was there anything else of note that happened?
No, I can't remember.
In your witness statement, it also said that you did not put away your hot plate. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, that is true. I did not put away my hot plate because after I had finished, the rules tell us that we must leave our hot plate out for 15 minutes to cool down. And I had finished ahead of Tracy and Morgan. However, after I finished, I went to talk to them a little bit. And after they cleaned up their materials, I had already unplugged my hot plate and left it in the middle of the table and turned it off. And I had just forgotten and left it in the middle of the table, didn't clean it up.
Okay, I see. Now, when the three of you left, did someone remember to turn off the master power switch?
Yes, that was my job. I turned off the master power switch and any power switch that also had to be turned off, and I turned off the lights and closed the door.
I see. When did you exit?
When we exited about 7:25 p.m., I'd like to say.
Yes.
However, when we left, Morgan and I both headed to the south parking lot, while Tracy went down to the other side of the building to the west parking lot. So we had split up.
Yes. Now, Morgan McGrath has also went into the building and came out sometime later. This is very important, which side of the glass door did Morgan come back out?
Well, after re-entering the building, after we had just left, Morgan, a little bit of time later, he actually appeared from the left-hand side of the doorway, because the door's glass, so everyone's able to see people walking in and out. So then I was able to see him appear from the left-hand side, which is really curious, because the bathroom, as he had said he had gone to, was located on the right-hand side of the door. So he must have doubled back when I was taking a smoke outside to the left-hand side, which is kind of just weird.
Now, how did Morgan act after coming back from the bathroom?
After coming back from the bathroom, Morgan, as I had seen, was very nervous, very agitated, and again, like when I had commented on his story, which I believed was not true, he seemed very quick to take offense. He was nervous, he was fidgety, like he was trying to get away from something.
Okay, that is all.
The question. Was there a third party to confirm what you saw through the door?
Was there a third? No, it was only me.
Okay, so it's
and
just you, okay.
me.
Did you work at Lab Station 1 where the fire started on March 14th, 2001? Did you work at Lab Station 1?
I worked at Lab Station 1.
Okay. Is it possible that a person could violate the honor code because they were busy with experiment, meaning they didn't scan back in at 6 p.m.?
I guess it could.
Okay. So did you leave the hot plate in the middle of the station, as the direct said, unlike the contradicting the chief's statement, which said it was put away? So you left it in the middle of the station?
Yes, I left it.
Okay. When Morgan came back from the bathroom, were you still smoking your cigarette?
Was I still smoking?
Yeah.
Yes, I was still smoking
Okay.
a cigarette.
In your opinion, how long does it take to smoke a cigarette?
How long does it take to smoke a cigarette?
Rough estimate.
It depends how large your
Just
cigarette is.
Rough estimate.
Rough estimate. I don't know if I'm allowed to give opinions, but
You smoke cigarettes, so
maybe,
it's common.
yes. A Marlboro cigarette, which I usually smoke,
Yeah.
I think would take about 10 minutes.
Give it, how much?
5 to 10 minutes.
How long?
5 to 10 minutes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Sure. Let the record reflect that I'm giving the witness what has previously been marked as Exhibit I. Could you, do you know what this is?
This is the activity along with the signage.
Okay. Can you please read when Morgan re-entered the building? What time?
Morgan re-entered the building at 7:24 p.m.
And when did he leave?
He left at 7:35 p.m.
Is that 11 minutes? So, were you smoking the cigarette the whole time?
I guess, yes.
Okay, even though you just said it was like, even though, am I correct that you smoked for 5 minutes? It took you 5 minutes to smoke the first cigarette?
The first one, yes.
But this one was 11 minutes.
Because the first one I still
Okay,
had
okay.
a chemistry lab to finish.
Is it true that Morgan made offensive remarks to you twice during that day? Once at the lab and once at the parking lot?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and is it also true that you are ranked second in your graduating class behind Morgan McGrath?
Second with a 3.8 GPA.
Yeah. So wasn't it a goal of yours to pass him in the rankings
A
and
goal?
graduate first in the class, which you claim you didn't see happening?
It was a goal. It wasn't exactly a goal, but it was more of a dream.
Really?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
who wouldn't want to graduate
So,
first in their class?
you would be able to achieve this goal if Morgan was convicted, correct?
Would I be able? Well, it depends.
You would,
If
you would
someone
be
else
able-
decides to transfer to a college, and obviously
but Morgan was an obstacle, correct?
Morgan was not an obstacle.
Was
Like I
Morgan
said-
first?
Like I said
Was
in my
Morgan first?
affidavit, Morgan was
Was
a
Morgan first?
inspiration
Was
for me.
Morgan first?
Morgan was first.
Okay. And did you not voluntarily call the fire department to report your suspicions on Morgan?
Yeah, I called
So
them.
you called them yourself?
I called them myself to report what I believed had happened because she appeared
Wait,
from
wait, but no one else has provided evidence of what you saw, right?
No one else has provided.
Like there's no other party that has observed what you saw,
No, it
correct?
sounds the same.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, counsel.
This is
Here, redirect.
Dude, that got sexy as hell right there.
Hey, we're being refreshed. Now, just to reaffirm this, were you and Morgan good friends?
No, we're not good friends.
I see. And when Morgan came back out of the building, which side did he come from?
Morgan appeared from the left-hand side, which is where lab 2A is located instead of the bathroom.
And how did he act?
He was, again, nervous. He was fidgety. As if he was trying to leave some area or something.
Okay, that is all.
Your mailing
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
would, does the Commonwealth have any other witnesses they'd like to call? Commonwealth rests. Defense, we will start tomorrow's trial with your witnesses. Our
Let's go steady cam.
court is
So, no,
adjourned
no,
for
no,
today.
no.